Now, many of you guys watching have asked, okay, Tom, who could the Cowboys trade for? What about this guy, and that guy? I think the Cowboys correctly are going to be sellers. With that said, there are some guys out there who I think you should at least consider exploring a trade for. Now, don't get your hopes up here, but I think there is some potentiality for a trade target if they fill multiple, or at least one of these options here. Number one, they got to be cheap. I'm not paying big money for a player. They got to be young. They have to fill a need. I'd ideally to be under team control for more than just 1.5 years. Alternatively, if they offer elite value, I could make that work. Now, in general, these guys you're about to see are more of the cheap, young, buy low candidates, or I am finding extreme value with them. But again, don't get your hopes up. This is a selling team, and they should be selling, by the way. The name I always keep getting asked is Quinnen Williams. I'd do it in a heartbeat, guys. There was the report out of New York. The Jets were shopping him. That was from Manish Mehta. He's bad. And every single Jets beat writer came out and said, nope, they're not shopping him. Now, I think at some level, there are trade talks going on around Quinnen because, the Jets are a bad football team. They're selling. Other NFL teams would love to be able to get Quinnen Williams off the Jets. He was the number 3 overall pick in 2019. He's played for not even a year and a half. And he's coming off a great year, or I should say, he's in the midst of a very good year. 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. The problem here is that even though I would do it, and you bet your butt I'm calling the Jets at minimum, unless Joe Douglas blocked your number because you leaked the Jamal Adams trade talks, but whatever. Dallas should have interest. I would say, hey, New York, if you want that second-round pick, here's the best second-round pick you're going to get. We'll give you ours. That's a top 50, probably top 40 pick. And if the Jets do it, yeah, you won that trade. I don't think this gets this done. Now, you can talk me into adding some other draft pick capital as well, but Joe Douglas, even though Adam Gase sucks, Joe Douglas, the GM, is smart. He's made some good trades. I don't see Quinnen going away for pennies on the dollar. Now, you still try it, but again, don't get your hopes up on him being dealt before the trade deadline. The big name floating out there right now in trade talks and trade rumors is Stephon Gilmore, so I had to make note of him here. Allegedly talking about a trade. He put his house up on the market allegedly as well. Look, he was the defensive player of the year last year, and he was awesome. And even this year, he's taken a little bit of a step back. But that doesn't mean he's been bad. Here are his numbers. Sub 54 completion percentage, 7.3 yards per target, allowed just 1 touchdown, 2 pass breakups, 1 interception already. Guys, we've all seen this Dallas Cowboys team play defense. You would kill to have him on your roster. But again, I cannot trade away my first-round pick. If I could get him for the second, which allegedly is all the Patriots think they can get per Albert Breer, but I don't buy that. This is the reigning defensive player of the year on a market-friendly or a fair market contract. I just don't buy it. Get him for the second, I'm all in. But I can't trade my first. So at that point, Gilmore and Quinnen, probably a little bit more like pipe dreams than they are realistic trade targets. And I might regret this question, but I'm going to make it the pin comment one anyway. Who do you guys want the Dallas Cowboys to trade for? Very important, no quarterbacks allowed. It's silly. It does not benefit you. In fact, I'm only looking at defensive guys right now because I'm looking for long-term pieces. You don't need many long-term pieces on offense right now. So if you get the ad break here on YouTube, scroll on down and let me know who you want the Cowboys to trade for. Let's talk defensive line, a guy we have mentioned here as well. Deadrin Senat, the defensive tackle, Senat, from the Atlanta Falcons. 3rd-round pick, 2018, South Florida. 49 snaps in the past 2 years. 29 this season. Now, he could be a good low-risk trade target because I don't think he's going to cost very much. He simply has barely played. I thought he was pretty good as a rookie. I'm like, okay, 3rd-round pick. Looks like a good rotation guy, showing some promise, and he's been benched in Atlanta. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think I could get him for about a 3rd-rounder. Or, excuse me, the former 3rd-rounder could go for a 7th-rounder. I think that's all I would have to give up. And you know what? 7th-rounders don't hit very often. So why not trade a 7th? If Atlanta says no, okay. But I think a late round pick for Senat could be a good move for the Dallas Cowboys. Speaking of hitting, that's what I've been doing on my bets lately with our sportsbook partner, BETUS, chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code Cowboys125. That'll get you a 125% deposit bonus. What that means is when you put down $100, they're going to hook you up with an extra 125 on top of that. That's chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code Cowboys125. It'll get you a 125% deposit bonus. I want to talk about another defensive lineman here, B.J. Hill. Again, a former third rounder, 2018, also relegated to a backup role. Now, inter-NFC East trades don't happen all that often, but Dave Gettleman also needs draft picks because, the Giants are also really, really bad. Hill is only playing 20 snaps per game. His rookie year was very impressive. 6 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. Now, those numbers a little bit were inflated. His pressure rate was not the equivalent of the number of sacks that he had. But as good as he was in his first year, he's played less than that since, in a year and a half of work, which is really weird to me. Now, the sack number, he's not going to be a 6 sack or 5.5 sack guy, but I think he can give you 4. And again, rotation piece on the defensive line. And you know what? He instantly becomes the best defensive tackle on this team. Now, that's not saying much, but you know what? Having another rotation piece, if you can get a rotation guy for a 6th rounder or so, that makes your life easier because that means that's one less spot you have to spend on another defensive line pick, and you're probably getting a better player than you get in round 6. So again, he's young, cheap, under team control, and he might have some trade value. That's why this is someone the Cowboys should explore. But in general, I want to emphasize this again, the Cowboys should be selling. Now, you can do a little bit of both here as we're discussing, but you ain't giving away the farm for a 1-year guy on a rental. You're not giving away the farm for a Justin Simmons or even an Anthony Harris or anything like that. I think in general, this team should be sellers at the trade deadline, especially with guys with 1 year left on their deal. For example, you should at least explore an Aldon Smith trade. You don't want to hear it, but they should consider it. Jordan Lewis, maybe you move on from him. The Cowboys should at least explore those options. We're doing trade targets right now. We did trade candidates earlier, so that video is on the channel. If you missed it, well, make sure you're subscribed. That way you don't miss any more videos going forward. All right, big name, allow me to explain. Harrison Smith, as weird as this might sound, I actually think makes more sense for the Dallas Cowboys than Anthony Harris does. Look, the Vikings are prepared to sell, but remember what I mentioned at the beginning. Yeah, I'm looking for young guys, but I'm looking for players under team control. Harrison Smith is under team control this year and next year. And once you factor in their salaries over that time frame, and even on a potential extension for Harrison Smith, he's actually cheaper than Anthony Harris is. So he's an older player. I think will give some great locker room leadership and would instantly become the best safety this team has seen since Darren Woodson, probably. It's been a long time. He would be a great addition for the Cowboys. The problem is, at least for Harrison Smith specifically, what is the trade cost of him? Can I get him for a third? I think I'd do it for a 3rd rounder because that takes care of my safety spot. Now I can go corner, defensive line, round 1, round 2, or whatever. It only costs me $10 million next season. It's actually not that much, and this year's pretty cheap as well. I can work on an extension for him. He's an older player. I think it would actually cost me less from a cap space perspective than Anthony Harris on an expensive franchise tag and a big fat extension. So for that reason, I'd actually pursue Harrison Smith, who, again, I'm not actually sure is going to fit the draft pick compensation the Cowboys are searching for right now. Now, we mentioned the BETUS deal. We're going to keep the jersey giveaway up as well for the rest of the month, so you guys are almost out of time. Wow. Email us, cowboys@chatsports.com. Once you've signed up, deposit at least $100 and placed a bet. That's cowboys@chatsports.com. If you weren't paying attention, the BETUS website is chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code you see on your screen. That is Cowboys125. You have to use both of those, the link and the promo code, to be eligible to get the jersey. Let's talk cornerbacks now. William Jackson is almost the exception to the rule that I just set of he has to be cheap. I don't think Jackson is going to be a cheap addition for the Cowboys, but I think I might be able to trade for him, pay him, and get him at just a little bit below market rate. Consider this we messed up with Byron Jones, let's fix that. His contract might be fairly similar, but you know what? I could probably get him for that third-round pick that I'm going to get for Byron Jones, or at least one of the third-round picks the Cowboys are going to have this year. He's not going to be cheap, but for good reason. Now, he's a bit banged up right now, but again, we mentioned the Stephon Gilmore completion percentage. William Jackson's right there. Now, he's allowed a few more big plays this year because he's not as good as Stephon Gilmore, but he costs less, too, in terms of trade capital. If I could get him for a third, because I at least would be prepared to pay him, that intrigues me. We've mentioned him before on the show. He's a good football player. My issue here, and why I say don't get your hopes up despite my idea of it, Cowboys don't want to pay corners. They didn't pay Byron. Not sure they'd end up paying Jackson either. Now, we focused on defense here because the offensive line will get healthy, Dak will be healthy, and the offense will be fine. But what is the biggest need right now for the Dallas Cowboys? You could maybe argue offensive tackle. Is it defensive line, safety, corner, linebacker, edge, punter, which isn't a need, but, punters are a thing for this Cowboys team because they're bad on offense. I'm going to go interior defensive line. I'm going to go defensive tackle because right now you have 0 quality starters, and you got maybe 1 or 2 rotation guys. That's not good when you're trying to rotate in 4 or 5 guys per game. Final trade target here, Josh Jackson. This of the corner between him, Gilmore, and Jackson, this Jackson makes the most sense. Now, he knows McCarthy from his time in Green Bay with him. He is playing more due to injuries at cornerback. Now, I don't know what the cost of a Jackson trade is for a couple different reasons here. The biggest reason overall is that Jackson, he's playing more because of those injuries, and that makes Green Bay a little bit less willing to move on from him. But if they are, I don't think he'd be that expensive. I liked him a lot coming out of Iowa because he had great, take a drink, ball skills. He hasn't shown those in the NFL. Now the yards per target there isn't that bad. He's been a little bit better this season as well. I'd take a flyer on him, but this might have made more sense if Green Bay wasn't 5-1, if they had 3 or 4 losses already. But once their corners get healthy, they might be more willing to deal Jackson. Maybe you can even get Jackson as part of a trade if Green Bay gets panicky and goes, okay, here's a first plus for one of your receivers. Maybe Jackson can be that plus. But again, don't get your hopes up for a major blockbuster trade by the Cowboys because they're just not good enough.